Our data visualization work group has been running since March 2018, and it's sponsored by the Pacific Northwest Aquatic Monitoring Partnership. We're based in Cook, Washington. I'm Sharon Olson. Also facilitating the work group are Denise Kelsey and Keith Dublanica. And our goals are to explore best practices for visualizing natural resources data, and to find out how to best make data at multiple scales easily accessible for multiple audiences, from stakeholders to resource managers, policy folks to scientists, and to learn from each other. So we sponsor presentations from our members and from others throughout the United States who are developing visualizations for natural resources data. There are links on our pnamp.org website. Look under projects and data visualization. Several links for resources and links to find our previous presentations, videos of them, slide presentations. Today, we have two presentations. Leading is Chantal Krider and then Michelle Steg-Geltner.
Habitat and fisheries data.
Hi, George. Welcome to the group, and thanks for introducing yourself. Anyone else new to the group, brand new, and you've never seen the group before?
Hey, it's Justin Welty. This is my first meeting where I'm just listening in. I presented, I think, a time or two ago, and so just wanting to see a little bit more what it's about. I'm an ecologist with USGS.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for joining us. Yes, so everybody listening in, Justin Welty presented last meeting, and that was in March. And we have posted the video of the session. Justin presented about landscape tools. Tell us a little bit, Justin, about what that was.
So yeah, the two projects I presented on were the Land Treatment Digital Library, which collects legacy BLM land treatment data and it allows it to be used for planning and research purposes. And then the Land Treatment Exploration Tool is a decision support tool we're developing that allows users to get on the ground information about their planned treatment sites, GIS clipping capabilities, web mapping capabilities, and searching for the similar past treatments in the LTDL that have similar spatial characteristics to allow users to compare past treatment failures and success in kind of an adaptive management context.
And Justin, all of our information, all of your information that you gave us is posted on our project page with links to both of the tools and links to the actual presentation, which kind of evolved into a presentation about using ARC tools, Survey 123 and ARC Collector. A lot of people were interested in that, and Justin has developed a lot of those for his group. We're doing something that was suggested by one of the members, which was to figure out where are they now? What has happened in a year or so of development? Because pretty much all of our presentations, everything we've seen from everybody has been a work in progress. And it would be, data visualization is sort of new to some people and some organizations, so we may be sitting on a lot of data. How to present it best to multiple audiences is tricky. So the question is, what has changed in a year? And it's even interesting to find out if not much has changed in a year, because then the question is, why? Is it a lack of resources or what else is happening? So I was really happy to find out that both Chantal and Michelle were willing to present to us today what has happened in about a year. They presented to us about a year ago in March of 2018. They told us what they were working on then. Chantal was working on the Effectiveness and Evaluation Tools project, and Michelle was working on, from Yakama Nation Fisheries, on STAR, the Status and Trends Annual Reporting Project. I just talked with Chantal and she told me that some things have changed. She's working on, right now, an open data portal. So we'll be hearing about that today. And Chantal told me also that the EET, Effectiveness and Evaluation Tools, is still a project in progress. And Chantal, you said that Keith knew a bit about that and its progress to date. So Keith, would you be willing to give us a little update on the EET? Or Chantal, if you give us a little update on the EET?
Sure, I can do that. And Keith, you're welcome to chime in. Last year we presented a beta of EET. So we worked with the University of Washington, high school students who put together a beta for us using R Shiny as the presentation front end of EET. And we've since been able to acquire funds from EPA Enterprise Grant. So we're in the process of pulling our collaborators together and developing a work plan to build out EET. I believe they were going to stick with R Shiny as the platform, and we're going to be recruiting Department of Fish and Wildlife developers to help us pull EET together. And then we're also going to be working with Ecology, Puget Sound Partnership, and RCO to bring in the data element. So I'm hoping within the next year, we'll have a version 2 of EAT, and we'll be able to come back and present to you guys where we're at.
That sounds great. Thank you. So next year, we'll schedule you for about a year from now, right? And you can...
Sounds good.
All right, then let's get to our presentations. And Chantel, I will...
So the presentation I put together today is based on a challenge we addressed with a project where we use our data visualization tools in a website, but then needed to have our underlying data available to our users. So we needed a way to meet our data transparency requirements in sharing both spatial data and tabular data. We looked for technologies that enabled us to share our data openly. And what we were aiming for is data that was available with very few restrictions, no copyrights, patents, or mechanisms of control, which is in the spirit of open data. And this very much falls in line with our state objectives for making data available to the public. The project we were working on was a website, Save the Salmon, which I'll get to. I'll show you some examples. In Washington, in particular, the governor is very interested in making sure that we have efficient, effective, and transparent data. So if we're using data for policymaking, decisions regarding resources, that we need to make that underlying data available to the public so they can investigate further if they so choose. So we partnered with data.wa and geo.wa for not only sharing our data in our website, but also making sure that we're connecting our user community with their user community. So we made the data available via the website, and then through the technologies that we use, and I'll get to that, we're also making our data available at the statewide level as well. So we're reaching out as far as we can using Esri tools essentially to make sure that we're as transparent as possible and also reaching the broadest community base as possible. Every other year we put out a website at the Governor's Salmon Recovery Office here at RCO. We put out a website every 2 years and a print version of an executive summary. It's quite an undertaking. It takes about a year and a half to get the data all together, clean up the data, develop some presentation strategies, communication strategies, retool the website, make sure all of our content is in line with participating regions, and then have a launch that's usually in December. And so the website includes several visualizations that you guys have already seen. I've been participating in this work group for a while, so the technologies we use for presentation are Tableau for visualizing charts and graphs, and then we also use Esri products for, let's see which one has some other cool stuff. We let them pick and choose what they want to show, so not all of them are showing every single metric. So then we have interactive maps in our website. We also have data that's coming from ecology that gives us a little bit of a feel for stream health. So in this case, we're looking at bug counts or invertebrates within the stream networks that are within mid-Columbia in this case. And then so on and so forth. We're looking at sediment. So anything that affects salmon, we try to display data for that region and using various tools to do that. So if it's a map or if it's a Tableau embed, we create Tableau embeds for every single region that are specific to that region, and similarly for the maps. And so, as you can imagine, it takes quite a while to pull all this together. And so the objective was not only to provide the visualizations, was also to provide a portal where users can go and explore the data further if they so choose. And so the portal is available in the website here, the Salmon Data Portal, which I'll show you in a minute. Our goals were, let's get out of here. Our goals were really since I'm not a developer, I needed to be able to easily configure the Open Data Portal. I needed to be able to easily update it. I also needed to make sure that my data are linked to my authoritative data source, because we do this report every other year. The thinking was that if we connect to our authoritative data source, when they update their data on their end, our data in the website is automatically updating. That was really important for us. We also wanted to support a live data connection. So if it's connected to a service via like a REST service for Esri, or if it's connected to our SQL Server database, we all wanted to be able to have a live data connection to our data. And we also wanted to make sure that the data was easy to share and distribute. And we also wanted to make sure that there was metadata. So you had data about the data, information about the data, and at the level that's required by the state. And then we also needed to accommodate not only spatial data, but we also have a ton of tabular data as well. So we needed to make sure that the infrastructure supported both our tabular and spatial data. So those were our needs when thinking about the Open Data Portal. And so the solution we chose was using ArcGIS Hub. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with this technology, but it's a geospatial cloud. And if you have an agency account, you do have access to ArcHub. That's worth taking a look at. And so the intent of ArcGIS Hub is for governments to create, actually it's a bridge between the government and the community. So it's a bi-directional communication where the community can communicate to the government, and the government can communicate to the community. And so it's a way to engage and collaborate with the community. I have an example that I can show. Our portal is really a one-way communication, where we're communicating information to the public and to our users, and we're not getting information back. So our example is more of a one-way communication, but I thought it was interesting to look at a bi-directional communication. So I have an example here we can take a look. So this is an example that I found on Esri's website, and I chose this one because they're integrating in not only Esri technology, but I found it interesting that they're using Tableau as well. So these are all Tableau embeds that they have in this portal or in this hub, where they have by state, let's see, license plates, vehicles involved in a crash by state. So this is intended to communicate out to their constituents. And then they have some applications down here where, say somebody had a field app, they could collect data and provide that data to the government. So in this instance, they're communicating out these metrics that they've chosen, and then communicating back through these applications down here from the community where they can provide information back to the government. So that's an example of the bi-directional communication. So of course you need to have all your apps set up in advance to collect information from the community and have that transferred back to the government, but it's just an example of using it in this bi-directional sense. And Esri has a few more of these examples. If you look up ArcGIS Hub, there's quite a few examples of how this works. But our purpose was more of a one-directional communication. So this is our portal. I'm just going to show you real quick before I dive in, because I want to talk about the purpose on the surface, how somebody would engage with it, and then I want to take a look at behind the scenes, like how we set it up, because that was really the tough part. So on the surface, it's really easy to use. We just set up our spatial data, so somebody can come and click on any of these icons and drill down and get the underlying data. So we have data on fish passage, and this is very fish-centric, and it's intended to be that way. So you have by topic, you can click and then drill down, and then I'll show you the website in a minute where you can scroll and then you can get to the tabular data. So this is the look and feel of what the final product looked like. So on the back end, our agency uses ArcGIS Online for our organization, but we also have a ton of partners that also have their ArcGIS Online infrastructure. And so what we did is we leveraged the ArcGIS Online groups. And so what I did is I selected certain data sets that we wanted in our portal and basically curated them. So I selected ones that were salmon centric and then reached out to the appropriate person to say, hey, could you please share your data with us? And so share this data to the group. So I would invite that person to share. I would select that data set that we wanted and reach out to them and say, invite them to share. And so on their end, all they have to do is click on the data set and select the group that I set up for them, and then share that data set. And that means that makes that authoritative connection. So anytime they make an update to that data, the update is also made in the portal as well. So we're never losing that connectivity with our authoritative data source. And that's real important because there's nothing worse than having to track down the source of who made the data and do you have the latest version. So it just eliminates all that hassle of having to basically hunt people down for data updates. And so far, it's been working pretty well. Esri has done one update to their system that broke some data connections, so I had to reach out again and do a refresh. But other than that, we've been successful at maintaining our connection with our authoritative data sources. And so through this platform and this group sharing, we're also able to connect to share our data back. So not only are they sharing data with us, but we're sharing data back to them, similarly with open data groups, and then also sharing hosted services. You have yet to share apps, but you can see that there's a great deal of capability here and making sure that we're building a strong data community, leveraging these groups. So that was kind of working within the confines of ArcGIS Online community, but we also wanted to make sure that we could reach out to the larger community, so folks that don't have an ArcGIS Online account, so meaning the general public. So that's how we set up the architecture, if you will, for bringing in our authoritative data sources, creating this salmon recovery group. And I don't know if you've ever used a group before, but let's see, I think I have a picture. Yes. So what you do is you set up a group. This is ArcGIS Online. You would sign in as normal and then select groups here. And then you can select, create a group of your own. And then you can invite users. So they can be sent an invitation, or you can add them automatically, which I recommend doing that because the notifications aren't that great. It doesn't send them an email. It just kind of exists within the sign-in dashboard, and it's sort of obscure, it's sort of hard to find. So I opted to just invite them to the group. And then once they're in the group, they can share those materials with us. So for example, you can see that these data sets here are shared by the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission. Actually, all of these are, and then you can see the author right there. The other important piece to keep in mind is that the way the portal is set up and the way you set up the search buttons are by the tags that are associated with the data that's being shared by external parties. And so you might have to do some coordinating with them to come to some consensus as to what those tags should be, so that the buttons on the on the open data portal go to the right place, essentially. So there's a little bit of coordination there, but you can see that we have over, I don't know, I can't remember, I'd say probably 50 data sets in this open data portal. And so that was tackling the spatial data. And so to tackle tabular data, what we used was data.wa.gov and posted our tabular data on data.wa.gov, and then created a WordPress site that then directs people directly to that data on the website. And I'll show you how that works in a minute. And so this is what, when somebody clicks on one of those links, what they'll get to is the data.wa page, and then they can view and download the data and read the metadata. And so let's take a little tour, and then we'll talk about challenges. How am I doing on time?
We're good with time. You're fine.
Okay. So this is it. This is the live portal available off of our website. So the way a user would interact with the portal is you basically click on an icon and then say this is something that you want to take a look at further. Maybe you want to make a map or you want to download it. You're going to click on the link, and then it'll kind of give you a preview of what the data is going to look like before you even download it, which I think is really nice. And then it'll give you an idea of the attributes that are associated with that data. So these are all the fields in the attribute table. It gives you a little bit of background of what those are. And then tells you who published the data, the source of the data. You can also view the metadata. You can download the data, and it gives you a variety of file types to download. That's real nice. And then some APIs if you choose to make an API of this particular data set. So, and all the data are set up this way. So this is a closer view of the attribute table, and then some API export, what the fields are and that API if you so choose. So that's what the hub is providing. And then if we go back, so this is all easily configured. It's you can use your own styles for the icons if you wish. You can import your own. You can use what's available in their library. It's kind of limited, so I had to make some interesting choices for symbology. But it's these down here are customized, so we need to somehow distinguish between our spatial data and our tabular data. So I went for this icon, and so the way this works is you click on icon, it takes you back to the website, but that's deliberate because we have multiple tabular data sets with that icon. So that was a way to get to parse out the one-to-many. And then once you get here, then it will take you to data.wa, where then you can download the tabular data. So you can view the data here, brings you directly to the spreadsheet. And then data.wa has export tools where you can export the data in various data formats. And then we set, also the other thing we did is when you click on the icon for, say, adult abundance, what we did in the website is we created an anchor point. So it takes the user to that exact location within that one page, because if you scroll, it's pretty long. So what we did is we created an anchor point, so it takes the person exactly to that section of the page where then they can drill down for the specific data that they're interested in. And then the rest of the portal, we sort of utilized it to showcase some of our other projects like EAT. And then we also gave some credit to our collaborators. So Ecology contributed quite a bit of data to State of the Salmon. So we gave them some real estate and some promotional acknowledgement, and then linked back to their research. And then we have some additional information. Look, there's PNAP. And so that's just a quick tour of the portal. And then there's search tools that are built in that help the user find the data that they're looking for. So it's going to look at, the way it works is it's going to look at all the tags that are associated with the spatial data. It's not going to work so great for our tabular stuff because it's coming from somewhere else, but it does work for searching the tags for the spatial data. So I can take questions if anybody has any questions, or I can just move on to challenges. The other cool thing that I wanted to share with you guys before we jump there, I just remembered that I wanted to show one more thing. So this is our website. The other thing that we did that really drives a lot of traffic to our website is our story map gallery. And this by far is the most visited page on the website. And so if you guys are thinking about any sort of website development, these are great for driving traffic. And so we've been developing story maps for quite a few years. So we have quite a library here of story maps. But in terms of the analytics, I just wanted to mention that this is a great tool for bringing users to your website and engaging your community. And so I'll go back. And so some of the challenges that we faced was really, as you'll probably not be surprised, but probably trying to find the best data and who to talk to about data sharing. And then we also needed to do a little bit of training. So, and the reason why we needed to do that is because it's very typically, especially in data.wa, somebody will upload a new data set rather than appending or replacing an existing data set. And so that meant that if they're sharing something new, it breaks the connection to the data that we're hosting on the portal. And so we needed to do a little education around how to best update data, some best practices for uploading and making sure that data connection stays intact. The other thing that we learned, and this is sort of new information to us, is maintaining those live data connections. We had been using Tableau for a couple of years, but are thinking about moving to Power BI because of the cost associated with live data. So using Tableau for a live data connection is about $175,000 a year, which was a little bit outside of our budget. And so since our agency is moving to 365 and the expense of having embed for Power BI is about, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's about $375 a month. We have decided to move to Power BI. So that means that all of our embeds in our website are going to be updated from Tableau to Power BI, probably in the next iteration of State of the Salmon. So that's all I have for you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chantel. That's great. A lot going on here and a lot of information integrated. Does anybody have any questions? I have a couple, but unmute yourself. And any questions for Chantel?
I have a question. This is Denise Kelsey with Krider. Wonderful website and lots of data to get to and see and play with. How many staff hours are we talking about maintain something like this per year? Is it one full-time person working steady on it?
Oh, maintaining it or developing it?
Maintaining, and then you can say developing too, if you wish.
Okay. The care and feeding is actually pretty light. I've only had to get in there, I think, twice since we launched in January. And the only reason I had to get in there is because Esri made an update and it broke some of our links to the data, which meant that I had to reach out to the original author and say, hey, can you reshare because I lost connectivity. And so I'd say since January, I've only put in like less than 3 hours. So care and feeding is light once you have it set up. To develop it, that's a little bit different because we did it in stages. We had an initial rollout in 2016 and then rolled it out again in 2018. And I'd say all told, to set it up was probably like a good 40 hours.
Only 40 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really, you just say it's plug and play, so you don't need to be a developer. So once you've got it kind of figured out, it's built in sections, so you just drag over a section and configure, drag over a section and configure. So it's actually really easy to assemble once you have all the pieces.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Chantel, I have a question. This is Sharon.
Uh-huh.
I see that you separated tabular data from spatial data. You said it was because your spatial data came from different sources that maybe didn't have tabular data? Or is there a plan in the future to show your spatial data and its tabular attributes, or vice versa? I mean, somehow to integrate them.
So the request came from just make sure that we had our spatial data separated from our tabular. So we knew that we wanted to share our data with the state, and they had drawn the line with the distinction between the tabular and the spatial. They said, if you're going to share your data through the group to our group, we only really want your spatial stuff. It's like, oh, okay. So then we decided the way to break it out cleanly was to have our spatial data shared with the AGOL group to geo.wa, and then our tabular data shared with data.wa. And data.wa is exclusively, well, I don't want to say that exclusively, but they best cater to tabular data sets. And so we made that distinction at the request of state guidance. And so I personally don't really care that they're mixed, and we wanted to be able to share both, but we did need to make it sort of a clean break when we were sharing at to the state level, when we rolled up to the state level. And so so that's why we kind of parsed them out that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I see. And part of the reason I asked is because I wondered how much of your data are shared with the coordinated assessments database.
Oh,
and vice versa.
Oh, I would have to ask them if they know about it. I'd be happy to.
Right. So I think Chris Wheaton and Mike Bannock are on the line with us from PSMFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if you approach them to maybe set up APIs for transferring their data.
I'd be happy to outreach. Yeah. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. Mike, are you with us? Are you aware of how your data
I'm
might work?
here, but I'm sorry. I just got back. I've been diverted onto other things, so I didn't actually see what she had.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious to know if you already had integrated their data sets or not. or if it's more just, you know, state focused.
I can follow
I
up.
don't know.
No, Mike, I don't, this is Jen Bayer. I don't think the CA is set up to pull results such as what we're seeing here into the CAX. It's fairly prescriptive, and it would be a question for Brody Cox, frankly, from Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Brody could answer that easily. Our hope is the CAX data would be pulled into your work, honestly, not the other way around. So that
no, that's what I was implying, is that, yeah, it's just.
But not two-way, Sharon. I think that's what I heard you say. So maybe I misunderstood. But if you want to know more, I think Brody could very easily articulate it. But I don't think he's on the call today.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Well, we
curious
are
to know.
pulling some of Brody's work. So we have, like, for example, we have their Swifty data set in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other questions for Chantel?
Hey there, this is Keith Dublonica with the Governor's Salmon Recovery Office.
Hi, Keith.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey there. Yeah. Actually, two comments. Thanks, Chantel, for a great presentation. And I just wanted to provide some info because of Jen's reference to Brody Cox. We are working with Brody from DFW and the Northwest Indian Fisheries Commission on some exchange network projects. We had the juvenile migrant exchange, and we're just completing the adult fish exchange with EPA support with Bruce Jones through the commission. And we're waiting to hear how our submission to EPA for a hatcheries, harvest, and trap grant proposal will be ranked, and whether or not we will get that award later this summer. We are also involved with Brody and Leska 4 from the partnership and the Skokomish Indian tribe on an effectiveness and evaluation tool, and Chantel helped us put that project proposal together, and when it was funded through EPA, it's still in its infancy. I just met with the tribe yesterday, and we're getting our final agreements together with our partners, but that is a 3-year project, and I expect there to be some commonalities in presentation and data feed from that, similar to what Chantel just showed. And Chantel was very instrumental in helping get some of our graphics put together on how we're going to pull information from the Eagle database with ecology, fish and wildlife information, the tribe, and some other as yet to be defined processes. So thanks again for showing this today, Chantel, and for PNAM for helping host this.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Any more questions for Chantel? And I see you're
Hi,
out
this
in
is Ecology. Can you hear me?
Yes. Say your name again.
This is Jack at Ecology.
Hi, Jack.
Hi there. I just kind of have a general question. I was wondering if in building this website, we gained any insight into how to bring together data sets to use in larger analyses. What I'm getting at is it just seems like we often run into incompatibilities in data sets. And I was just curious if Chantel has any comments about that.
Yeah, good question. So I'm trying to think of a good example where I had to bring multiple data sets from different sources. Well, you know, right now I'm not on this project, but with NOAA's ESU update they just did in 2015, we're having to bring in some legacy data and from 2006 to make, quote unquote, make it work. So that's the freshest in my mind in terms of the struggle of overcoming, you know, data that has formatted much differently. The new data set versus the legacy data set. In our case for this project, for State of the Salmon, our sources were pretty pure per metric, and so I didn't have to basically meld data together to present the final metric. But typically when that happens, what I'll do is I'll outreach to the contributing organizations and make sure that I'm understanding the crosswalk correctly before integrating. And then also, and internally to ensure that the end use is appropriate for whatever sort of adjustments need to be made to the data to make sure that it fairly represents the intent of the data. So, and in those cases, if there's any sort of manipulation, then that would be documented in the metadata, so that the user could be completely informed of whatever sort of massaging was done between one data source and another data source and the final product. So I don't have a really good example in this project, but I have run into that in previous projects, and so those are sort of my processes for making sure that the data is still as final a product and honors the intent as best as possible.
Thanks. So we'll move on to Michelle with the Yakama Nation Fisheries, and we'll have a few more minutes to talk about both of the presentations after Michelle's presentation. And this is a presentation we saw about a year ago, Status and Transannual Reporting Project. So Michelle, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
I'll stop my share and you can grab the screen share from me.
Let's see. All right.
Looks good.
It works.
Yep.
Okay. Oops. Okay. I'm Michelle Steg-Geltner. I'm the Status and Trends Reporting Coordinator for the Yakama Nation Fisheries. And I presented a year ago about some of our work in data visualization, and I was a little bit hesitant to come back and give an update, but actually when I compared it last year, it turned out there have been quite a few developments and things look way better to me now, so that's good news. And thank you for inviting me back. For those who didn't attend before, real briefly, I should mention what my project is about. One slide of background. The STAR project was initiated in 2009 to help provide answers to some important questions that Yakama Nation has on a regular basis regarding restoration actions and benefits associated with those actions and management work. And so the focus is the status and trend of targeted species, and are the resources benefiting from restoration work, and what do those restoration projects accomplish. And through STAR, a data management and visualization service is provided that helps to enable the nation to flexibly address these kinds of questions. But also of note, I should mention that I have to accommodate audiences at multiple levels. So, oh, I have an echo. Is everyone else hearing the echo? Does that sound all right?
We're not hearing an echo. We hear a little bit of a wobble, but I can hear you okay. So.
Okay, just as long as I'm just not terrible for people to be listening. Thank you. Okay, so I have to accommodate real technical data as well as real high-level summaries, but I'm also addressing some, trying to facilitate improvements in data management and data flow, reporting efficiencies, and internal and external sharing at the same time. So I've had some developments on those fronts as well. So today I will be looking at an update for the STAR dashboard website and then looking at some Esri tools, the theme of the day, that we've been leveraging to be able to easily develop some engaging sort of applications for people, including story maps and operational dashboards. And now we're doing a pilot using Survey 123 and looking into potentially using Insights. So a few examples of that, and then briefly mentioning some internal sharing and processing of data and external sharing and improvements and some observations from the last year. So I have screenshots for my presentation, but I'm going to try and do online interactive stuff as much as possible because it's cooler. So of course, I still have this annual printed report, which is a real high-level summary, lots of infographics, and it's best for some audiences, some outreach efforts, some of the leadership, but it's static. And so for more detailed information and dynamic information, I'm trying to transition people to going to the STAR dashboard more if possible. And it can be downloaded from the STAR dashboard. So that's what that looks like. And so going to the new homepage, there are some improvements here. Trying to engage people more and make it more dynamic and exciting, and so and easy to navigate to the areas of most interest after observing what people are interested in a bit over the last year. So now you can navigate by subbasins for summary of information that way, and then there are tools for data query, for live dam counts, and also a reports library, and then a library of restoration stories, which is a story map collection. So looking at an example of the output from the data query from the dam passage, these are the dams where Yakama Nation counts the fish, like Prosser, Rosa, in the Yakama, and Castile and Lyle in the Klickitat. You can query, this is a Drupal query where it's fed live from the video count folks where it gets pushed up every night from them. And it gives detailed information that's useful for some people, but it's kind of tedious to try and figure out, get a quick sense of what's going on. So we have developed some features where you can get sort of a quick glance impression of the status and trends with some infographics. And then with this Esri product, the operational dashboard. And so it is live and connected with the database that has the dam counts fed to it, and it's interactive. You can go to the different sites and see the most recent day month to day and year to day and a meter. It's pretty cool. And you can click on these individual parts and get a little bit of interactivity there, and see what the trend is over time. So that's the new really neat dashboard. And then finally, to engage people, like Chantel mentioned, they really do like these restoration story maps. So we have built a collection of those, and you can filter for the subbasins and the topics. So we have a bunch of those where you can get a really cool visual snapshot of the kinds of work that our program is doing. So the theme is engaging and interactive, and also fresh and live. And then also easy to navigate. So if you go into the subbasin, you can get a quick glimpse of what's going on in that subbasin. Here's another copy of that same passage. And then by topic, fish habitat harvest and hatchery. We have these high-level summaries, status and trends kind of stuff. And then for the Methow subbasin, we have a pilot for habitat dashboard, which I'm hoping to be able to build for each of the subbasins. And I think it's really cool. Let's see. So I'm trying to shrink it, but it's not doing it very well. So I guess you'll see only part of it right now. But it's really interactive, and you can feed it by year, the different restoration projects going on. And I have associated with each project some of the ecological concerns that they're addressing, and also the types of projects. And then you can click into the map and see in more detail information about each project with sometimes they have links to some reports or other more information. So I think that has a lot of potential. And then for people who want to drill down in more detail, these interactive maps, it's an embedded Esri map from RTS Online, where I've just fed them. Right now it only has the DPA funded work elements, but I'm hoping to find the time to add projects from other funding sources. But some of our, in terms of usefulness for this, some of our managers have used it to help them to answer specific questions about work that's going on at a specific location, and be able to find out more detailed information about that. So that's for each subbasin. And then, let's see, going back, another feature that I developed that's useful for some folks in the Upper Columbia. We're having to do some habitat project prioritization. They wanted an online interactive map where it has all these kinds of layers of different assessments that have been done, and the associated information and source document for those. And so they've been using this to help them figure out some of their project prioritization. This is the ISRP up there. And then also for them, let me see, I opened a bunch of tabs here. Oh, this is the reports and presentations, where I can put a bunch of source documents for them that they can share amongst their group. So that's something that we've been asked, how is this being used? And so those are some examples of actual usefulness of these products. And so looking at resources for staff and for some of our trusted partners, if you click this request login button, you can send a message that goes to me that requests a login and what kind of information you're looking for. So I can give you the right credentials based on whether you're a fisheries staff or one of our partners that we share data with. I can share with you just specific parts of the more detailed data sets. And so if you log in, then you get to this dashboard, which is like the staff dashboard. And here you'll have access to some modules where you can, there's data that's been uploaded and can be shared internally amongst staff and QA/QC work done on it, as well as some reports showing the status and trends over time, as well as places where you can upload data sets to share with folks, regional groups like the coordinated assessment and StreamNet site. So one thing, I'll show how that works in just a second, but one thing I should go back to is our pilot for using Survey 123, and that is a way to use forms that are online. Whoops. Sorry, switching back and forth. Okay, those are my emergency backup screenshots. So we have the situation where we have some folks collecting screw trap data on these paper data sheets and then entering it in, and it's kind of a time-consuming, tedious process. So we're doing a pilot to see if Survey 123 forms will work for us, and they can be used on tablets or smartphones. So they're pretty easy to set up. Anybody with a RTS online account can do it, and then you can enter the data in offline, and then when you get to an internet connection, it uploads. And so that paper data sheet's converted to something more like this. And then looking at how the data flow process from here to getting it into a shared data set and doing some visualization. I have this lovely workflow, kind of more, maybe more details than people are interested in, but it just shows how we go from the live data collection, either from the dam counts or the Survey 123 field forms, and then into consolidated places where the data can be processed, downloaded, QA/QC'd, and then brought into different applications where it can be queried and viewed either internally or externally. And some of those places include these operational dashboards. That's how it gets fed into keeping them live, like with the dam counts. And so they could be spatial data or tabular data and displayed in, live interactive maps or graphs through Insights, which we're looking at. It's another entry tool for displaying. And then also through the STAR dashboard, that's it's a Drupal site. It's a content management service, and it does a good job at running queries, and we can run canned reports through SQL Server report builder there. And so that's how that workflow operates. And let's see, a couple final things. Sharing. So, let me open the one where it's for staff, where you have to have a staff login to get to this. And you go in here, and you can try to make it easy for staff to share. Since there's been a regional push for this, we've set up a API script so that staff can just. Right now, we just have the template for the NOSA, but we'll be adding some other ones that feed directly to CAX or to the StreamNet data query. And so it'll be easy for our staff to maintain their data sets and upload them once a year. It just feeds right in. And so when you do that, it shows up right in here, right away. And so so that's really cool, trying to make it easy for staff to participate in these things. So those are those sites where the data just magically appears, because I don't do the programming. I have, fortunately, technical assistants from QW Consulting who set all that up for me. So I think that's about it. I'll close with some observations. Here's the website address to the STAR dashboard and my email address if anybody wants to contact me. So we have improved, I think, the look and interactivity and the feel and the accessibility for different levels of people, from, raw data sets all the way up to infographics and things like that. So my observations are that you are never done. You have to keep updating, things go stale, and you can always improve based on your observations of, how people are navigating, what's engaging them. And new tools are constantly coming out. So I think that it's really important to stay engaged with groups like this one. There's a little plug for you, Karen. To stay aware of what tools are coming out, and to be able to adapt and utilize whatever makes sense for you and the resources that you have and the needs that your organization has, whether it's, Tableau or the Esri tools or Shiny or whatever. There's just, it doesn't really matter. Just use whatever works for you to be able to reach people and make it easier for them and for yourself. Also, I would say it's important to be flexible, because there's some surprise needs that come up that become important. And also just to make navigation to the information that people want and need easy as possible and engaging, and keep it fresh. And I think that's about it. Funding for this project is provided by Bonneville, and I have a technical assistance from QW Consulting. So with that, I will hand off to our moderator.
Thanks, Michelle. Great presentation about how you bring data all the way from the field to data viz. It looks like a lot of things have changed since last year. Almost the whole look and feel, and a lot more information that's available. And I like the approach where you have some people log in for access to more information and also to enter data and QA data. So any questions for Michelle at this point?
Hi, Michelle. Chantel here. I have a couple questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have those standalone metrics on some of the pages that have like a little graphic and then it has a value associated. Are those live or are those updated manually?
Right at this time, they are manual. However, that is one goal that we have to, as we improve things, to get them to feed in live. So that's one of the things to continually work on improving. So yep, that's the next step.
And then your operations dashboards, I've played with those a little bit, but we haven't been able to get them to be faster. Essentially, they're just kind of laggy. They don't refresh as quickly as we'd like. Do you have any recommendations there for configuring so they perform a little bit better?
I'm going to ask if my consultant is on the phone. Ben Kwan, you there? You might not be there.
Well, Michelle, I see him as a participant QW,
Yes.
but I'm not seeing, he might be listening on his computer. I'm not seeing a telephone icon.
Oh, yeah, well, he was watching. Okay.
Right.
Well, I will, he's the one who's done the real technical stuff for configuring things properly. So I would refer you to him, and I can provide his contact information. He can tell you about his recommendations for that. I haven't really noticed problems. It seems pretty good. As far as I can tell, but you might be dealing with much bigger data sets than I am. I mean, you probably are. So, mine are pretty simple. So,
okay, thank you.
And maybe it has to do with the flow because it's coming from my SQL server. This feed coming in from here might be configured a certain way to help it to operate better. But I'll have to get you his contact information for that.
That'd be great.
All right, more questions for Michelle.
Okay, well, feel free to contact me. Either I or my IT subcontractor can help you if there's anything else. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. And now, if anyone has any questions for either of the presentations or comparisons about them, or more questions for Chantel, also, I'd open up the floor for anyone to suggest any other types of presentations or any other fields, even if someone wants to see how people present, I don't know, maybe terrestrial work or any other kind of work. Let me know. Everybody's pretty quiet, so any final comments?
I have a request.
Yes.
So the thing we've been struggling with is connecting to our SQL Server database.
Okay.
And the best way to do that for connecting to something like Tabular or Power BI, etc. And so I don't know if other folks are having the same kind of issue, but I would love to hear more about how folks are doing that. I see that Michelle's using a Python script to do that. I understand that that's what DNR does. So I would like to hear some ideas from the group as to what the best method is for connecting your data to a live data source, or your visualization to a live data source.
So connecting from your SQL Server database to Tableau to present? Is that?
Yeah, or any sort of visualization tool like Power BI or Tableau, or it could be D3, or it could be, I know there's a lot of different ways to do it, and we're trying to chart that path ourselves, and so I think that folks on the phone have already done that, and so we'd love to learn from the group.
Well, I think last presentation, Justin Welty talked about using several different tools to do that. Are you still there, Justin?
Yes, but I was having a side meeting about fieldwork coming up as well, so I think I missed the first part of the question.
Go ahead. Okay. So one of the challenges that we're facing is how to best connect to our SQL Server, and the best way to do that. And so I see that Michelle is using a Python script, so I'm wondering what other techniques are best for connecting, say, SQL Server to a data visualization tool like Power BI or Tableau, or live data.
Right. So, I mean, we use Python scripts to connect. I believe you can use R scripts to connect. And a lot of this is going to involve Googling, depending on what you want to use. But most coding applications have a way to connect to SQL Server. It's just a matter of figuring out what their command structure is in order to do so. I don't have a lot of experience with Tableau or anything like that, but so for example, yeah, our LPDL website connects to a SQL Server, and if you want to get the specifics on that one, I have to get our web designer Linda to tell you specifically. The new website I'm designing for it uses Python, just a Python SQL Connect module, and it can talk right to it, and it's very quick.
Okay.
That's using an SGE geodatabase in SQL Server. So yeah, my preferred language is Python, but there's usually nothing that prevents the user from using any language of their choice to connect to something. Somebody has built it somewhere, has been my experience.
Have you had any performance issues?
Yes, but that's mostly like just server size related. Once you get up into the cloud and things like that, where it can ramp up and ramp down based on user demand, that tends to go away. But yeah, we've definitely run into issues trying to run things on local servers where like 30 users try to hit our exploration tool at once when we were doing a class, and it just died. It just got completely overwhelmed, and it was an ArcGIS server in that instance. But yeah, if you plan on having a lot of users using it at once, then you either got to make sure you have a local system that's capable of handling that, which can involve a lot of expense and a lot of server space, or you've got to get it up in the cloud, because the cloud's really good at allowing kind of and I'm not going to know the technical term here because I don't work on this specifically, but like an expansion contract. So, we've got it set up where the exploration tool is a really small thing, but if it suddenly gets hammered, it has the ability to grow to more processors and more CPUs and more memory to help handle the demand. So it all depends on where you put it and what kind of system you have to work with. But if it's not the SQL Server that's necessarily slowing it down, it's all the computer power behind it that's operating that thing.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have a couple of other developers on the line that I can get you in touch with them. Ben at QW Consulting, George Batten might have some ideas. So if you guys want to say anything now, you can, or I can get you in touch with them. Any other ideas or comments or questions? This sounds good. I want to thank both Chantel and Michelle for great presentations, and all of you who joined us, and we'll see you in a couple months. And again, contact me anytime if you have any ideas or comments, or you want to get in touch with anyone else in the group, or if you know of someone who has a data visualization that you especially like and you would like to see presented. So thanks again. Have a good day, and I'll see you in a couple months.
Thank you very much. Great facilitation, great presentations.